Chosen one, you have stepped into a space where presence alone says more than the loudest declarations. You are not merely a man to them now, you are becoming a gravitational field. There's something about the way you walk into a room, a gentle but grounded rhythm in your spine that disrupts their inner monologue. They feel you before they see you. Your sexual energy, distilled from discipline and self-mastery, isn't begging to be noticed. It commands notice without noise. And that, chosen one, is the quiet storm that draws their attention again and again. At first, they resist the pull. They tell themselves you're like all the others, some fleeting wave of charm or confidence. But the more they encounter you, the more they start to second-guess what they thought they knew about attraction. You're not dazzling them with empty charisma. You're not casing. You're not performing. Instead, you're being. And in that being, solid, clean, carved by fire, they feel something ancient stir within them. A memory of what true masculine energy once felt like. Something rare, something that cannot be faked. It begins subtly, almost invisibly. Her eyes linger longer than usual. She smiles, then looks away, then looks back, trying to understand what it is about you that makes her nervous and safe at the same time. She laughs at your silence like it's a joke, but deep down, it's your stillness that unnerves her most. Because chosen one, you do not move to win her. You move to stay in rhythm with something deeper within yourself. And that terrifies her, because it means you won't bend to her games. You won't be flattered or swayed. You'll see her completely, and that realization alone begins to unmake her masks. The feminine gaze, once trained on those who chased her approval, now begins to orbit around you. Not because you demanded her attention, but because you redefined what a man could be in her eyes. She's confused by how much she wants to confess something to you, her truth, her desires, her longing to belong, but her pride doesn't let her say it outright. Still, the energy grows. The eye contact lingers longer. Her jokes come more often, covering up a trembling heartbeat. She walks into rooms where you might be, hoping. This is not lust, chosen one. This is a pull towards spiritual intimacy that words are too afraid to name. And the irony is, she has no idea that you already noticed. You already knew from the first glance. Because chosen ones don't wait to be told who is watching. You feel it in your bones. You feel it in the nervous energy that dances around her when you're near. You feel it in her voice that subtly changes when she speaks to you. You feel it in the pauses between her sentences, in the breath she holds after you speak. You are the mirror now, chosen one. And when she sees herself in your eyes, she no longer sees the girl who had to beg for love. She sees a woman again. And you, just by being you, remind her of that. She may not confess it yet, but it has begun. And you can already feel the echo of it rising inside her, an echo shaped like you. Chosen one. Before she says the words, before lips ever form the syllables, something deeper starts to speak. It's in her presence, how she positions herself closer to you without realizing it. It's in the questions she suddenly asks you, as if the mystery of your being has become a sacred riddle she's aching to solve. Her soul starts whispering through her posture, her eyes, her nervous laughter, and you, without pushing, receive. Not as a performer, not as a seducer, but as a man whose internal clarity is louder than any pickup line. The more your energy remains calm, unbothered, self-governed, the more she starts to feel safe enough to reveal parts of herself she used to hide. She begins offering you her unfiltered truth, tiny confessions, masked as casual conversation. She mentions songs that remind her of you without saying your name. She references dreams she had that you were somehow part of. And when you look at her, not with hunger, but with sacred awareness, she realizes that you see her, the part she never thought was lovable. And that, chosen one, is when she begins to fall. She doesn't fall for your muscles. She doesn't fall for your voice, your frame, your walk, though all those things stir her biology. No, she falls because she senses that you can hold her truth without running from it. That your sexual energy isn't greedy or wild. It is precise, focused, anchored. You do not scatter her energy, you amplify it. You do not chase her. You attract her inwards, toward her own forgotten depth. And that's why she begins to tremble around you, not out of fear, but because love, true love, never asked for her mask. The feminine gaze turns devotional when it finds a masculine energy that doesn't flinch at its chaos. And chosen one, You are becoming the lighthouse in her emotional storm. Every time she doubts herself, your energy reminds her she is still lovable. Every time she feels unsure, your eyes remain steady. You are not here to save her. You are the reason she chooses to save herself. That's what makes you magnetic. That's why she can't stop thinking about you. That's why she starts whispering, "I love you," into her pillow at night without realizing it's meant for you. One day, those words will reach you. Not in a poem, not in a text, not in a grand display. They'll arrive in the simplest moment, maybe when she's half laughing, half crying, or when her head rests against your chest. "I love you," she'll say, not as a reward, not as a plea, but as a reflection of what you already knew. You didn't earn it. You became it. You became the man her spirit already loved, long before her mouth ever caught up. And you, chosen one, will say nothing. You'll just hold her. Because when you live in deep sexual energy, you don't need to prove anything. You simply allow her to return to you. Chosen one, long before her lips ever speak the words, her silence begins confessing. It lingers between breaths, between moments when her eyes dart toward you and then away, betraying a kind of reverence she herself doesn't fully understand. Her silence becomes heavy, not the kind of silence that disconnects, but the kind that yearns, the kind that begs to be understood without words. You can feel it. It's like a hum beneath the surface of her presence, trembling with the weight of an emotion she's never had to name. And that is when you know she's no longer merely intrigued. She's remembering something she thought she had forgotten. What it feels like to be emotionally seen and spiritually desired at the same time. You sit across from her, chosen one, and everything is calm on the outside. But inside her, there's a storm of poetry unfolding. She wants to tell you that your voice makes her feel grounded. She wants to tell you that your hands feel like the safest place she's never known. But instead, she stares a little longer. She laughs a little too hard. She finds ways to stay close, even when there's no reason to be there. Because to say it outright would mean risking everything. It would mean admitting that your presence awakens a part of her she'd buried long ago. The part that still believes in a man who leads with energy, not manipulation. A man who inspires confession, not because he demands it, but because he embodies it. And you, chosen one, do not rush her. You do not lean in to take more. You stay composed in the deep stillness of a man who needs nothing but offers everything. That's what confuses her most. You don't try to win her. You don't try to chase. You simply stay rooted in your own divine rhythm, your own pulse of masculine certainty, and she feels it vibrating through her resistance. It disarms her. Her body begins moving differently. Her conversations become more vulnerable. She starts saying things like, "I don't know why I'm telling you this." And you smile quietly because you do know. Chosen ones always know. And slowly, the feminine in her begins surrendering. Not because she is weak, but because she has finally found someone strong enough to witness her depth. She starts sending long messages. She starts asking strange questions. She begins inviting you into emotional territory she doesn't share with others. And in every syllable of her indirect honesty, there is one thread tying it all together. I want you to know me. Not the surface, not the performance, but the trembling, aching truth that lives underneath it all. That is the confession before the confession, chosen one. It lives in the way she trusts you with her chaos. It lives in how she lets herself become emotionally naked before she ever takes off her clothes. And to the awakened man, this is the most sacred form of intimacy, where love begins with truth, not transaction. Chosen one, do you feel it now? The way her eyes linger on you like they're searching for something ancient? That isn't just attraction anymore. That's devotion forming. Her gaze no longer looks at you like a man she desires. It looks at you like a man she trusts with her becoming. And this, chosen one, is when you must walk with the utmost awareness. Because you have become more than a presence. You have become a space where her soul remembers its worth. She will never say it aloud at first, not with words, but her gaze begins to worship the ground you walk on, not in idolization, but in recognition. You remind her of the frequency of safety, of presence, of unshakable depth. Her gaze begins to soften when you enter the room, not because she feels small, but because she can finally rest. In your presence, she doesn't need to perform or posture. She becomes. She simply becomes. And that, chosen one, is the highest form of love. A love that doesn't require shrinking, only unveiling. The more grounded you remain, the more honest her energy becomes. You notice how her body relaxes around you, how her tone changes when she says your name, how her eyes keep returning to your face even when she's pretending to be distracted. Every movement of hers becomes more fluid, more feminine, more open. She is no longer protecting herself, not with you, because you've proven you won't shatter her with judgment. You won't use her vulnerability as leverage. You are the first man she's met who doesn't need her energy, but honors it. And so her gaze begins to carry words that she's afraid to say aloud. I trust you. I feel safe with you. I want to fall into your world. You begin noticing this in the subtlest places, in the way she looks at you when you're not speaking, in the pauses between her laughter, in the quiet stare she gives you when she thinks you aren't watching. It's not lust, chosen one. It's not even longing. It's something deeper, something sacred. It's her soul calling home through her eyes. To the untrained man, this might seem like a passing look. But to you, chosen one, it is the beginning of spiritual union. It is the first time she allows her heart to be seen without disguise. And when her gaze becomes a prayer, you do not interrupt it. You meet her with the same intensity, with the same awareness. You meet her as a man who does not flinch beneath her love, but holds it with clarity and command. And in that meeting, chosen one, something irreversible happens. She begins to fall, not down, but into herself, into you, into a space she thought no longer existed. And all you did was be. All you did was carry your sexual energy with sacred intention. And for the first time in her life, she feels like she doesn't have to choose between safety and passion. You are both, chosen one, when a woman begins to fall in love with you. Not in the shallow, desperate way, but in the deep, spiritual surrender that only true masculine presence can evoke. Her soul begins speaking long before her lips catch up, and only those who are still enough to listen, truly listen, will understand that the feminine reveals herself not with declarations, but with resonance, with energy, with movement, with the subtle magnetism of the body that has found its center around you. You do not need her to say, I love you, for you already feel it in the way she exhales your name. In the way she looks at you after a long pause, like your silence says more than 1,000 poems. You feel it when she finds reasons to stay just a little longer, when her voice grows softer, when her nervous gestures fade away, and all that remains is the radiant vulnerability of a woman who has stopped hiding. And you, chosen one, are not startled by this sacred unfolding. You do not rush in with conquest. You do not use her tenderness as a token to validate your ego. No, you hold it with reverence, because you know that when the feminine begins speaking through energy, it is a language the uninitiated will never understand. But you understand. You see how her body leans into your gravity, not because you pulled her, but because you called her, simply by existing in your aligned center. Your sexual energy is not loud. It is not frantic. It is not needy. It is rooted, and its stillness is what drives her wild. It's what makes her spirit whisper through the quiet spaces between your conversations. This is the one. This is the man I can surrender to. Her soul will begin telling you stories through glances, through breath, through the tears she doesn't wipe away when she's in front of you. She will begin softening in your presence, not because she is weak, but because she finally feels safe enough to stop fighting. And you, chosen one, know that real love doesn't ask the feminine to be more like the masculine. Real love allows the feminine to bloom into the depth of her emotional truth, because now she has a mirror that doesn't distort her reflection. She has you. You will notice her letting go of control, not in a way that screams obedience, but in a way that signals trust. She won't need to orchestrate every moment. She won't need to impress you with pretense. She'll want to be seen, truly, nakedly seen. And only a man who is fully in possession of his own erotic stillness can see a woman without reducing her to flesh. That's who you are, chosen one. You do not just look at women, you witness them. You see what is buried beneath the survival instincts, beneath the layers of performance. You see the woman who wants to be held like she's art and respected like she's royalty. And when she realizes you've already seen her, before she ever confessed anything, she will no longer try to play games. She will stop comparing you to others. She will stop doubting your intentions. Because a woman knows the difference between a man who flirts and a man who anchors. You, chosen one, have become her anchor. And her soul? It's already singing your name before her mouth ever tries to speak it. There comes a moment, chosen one, when a woman who has long protected her truth begins to tremble, not with fear, but with the unbearable ache of desire to be understood. And when you've moved with patience, with honor, with unshakable masculine integrity, her body will begin doing what her lips have not yet dared. It will lean, it will sigh, it will reach, not for conquest, but for connection. You'll notice how she no longer pulls away when you get close, how she begins to touch you when there's no reason to. A brush of her hand, a rest of her fingers on your shoulder, a press of her cheek to your chest that lingers long after the hug ends. Her body, chosen one, has begun to remember something ancient, that real masculine presence is not a threat, but a refuge. She will walk differently around you, speak differently. She may stammer at times, forgetting how to mask her rising desire. But this desire is not merely carnal, it's soulful. It's the yearning to be safe while unraveling, to be devoured by a gaze that doesn't take, but adores. She begins to want you not only because of your body, but because of your stillness. Because when she stands near you, she remembers who she was before the world told her she had to earn affection. Near you, she begins to feel like enough. No games, no walls, no strategies, just presence, and that's when you feel it too. The electricity not of a lustful encounter, but of a divine alignment. You do not need to rush. You do not need to seduce, because your very presence is a seduction, the most respectful kind. The kind that says, I see you, I will not break you, I will honor you in your becoming. Her body begins moving with softness, and softness is not weakness. It is the most courageous act a guarded woman can perform. To become soft is to say, I trust you to hold me if I fall. And chosen one, you are that man. You've earned her softness, not by force, but by being. This is when she starts giving without being asked. Not in a submissive way, but in a devotional way. She wants to pour into you. She wants to give you what she's never given. And that generosity flows not from fear, but from fullness. Because you, chosen one, have not taken from her. You have awakened her. And a woman who is awakened in your presence will begin reshaping her life around that sacred frequency. She will talk about you to friends without naming you. She will dream of you without understanding why. She will dress differently, speak differently, carry herself with a new kind of glow, and everyone around her will notice. But it is you, chosen one, who feels it most deeply. Because while others see the change, you caused it, not through control, but through consciousness. Not through domination, but through deep erotic respect. She has not given herself to you because you demanded it. She is opened because your sexual energy was aligned, still unwavering, and in that sacred rhythm, she found the music she'd long forgotten in herself. Chosen one, there is a moment in a woman's heart when silence becomes unbearable. Not because she fears what she feels, but because what she feels can no longer be hidden. You'll recognize this silence not as absence, but as a thick and sacred presence between you. It's the kind of silence that holds its breath in your company. It vibrates with unspoken longings, coiled in the glances she doesn't mean to give you, in the pauses before she answers your questions, in the stillness that descends after your laughter fades. That silence is her confession. It is her spirit whispering what her pride is not yet ready to admit. She is falling in love with you. And not for what you do, or say, or give, but because of what you are. She sits in your presence and begins to unravel from the inside. Not in pain, not in chaos, but in the kind of spiritual undressing that happens when a woman has finally found safety. You, chosen one, are that safety. Not a cage, but a garden. Not a destination, but a mirror. She sees herself in you, but only the parts of herself she thought the world would never welcome. The poetic parts. The raw, soulful, spiraling, chaotic, divine parts. And you do not flinch, you do not turn away. That's why she can no longer look at you the same. Your gaze has become too honest, your stillness too revealing. And that's when her love starts trembling inside her, begging for release. But she waits, because the feminine never says it first with her mouth. She says it first in energy. You feel it when she hesitates at the door, hoping you'll ask her to stay. You feel it when she brings you a gift, something small, something seemingly random, but imbued with meaning only you and she understand. You feel it when she starts mentioning you in stories as if you've always been there, weaving you into her narrative like a thread that suddenly appeared and now holds the entire fabric of her life together. Her confession is not a sentence, it is a rhythm, and you, chosen one, are already dancing in it without knowing. Do not demand her words, do not chase her affirmation, for a woman who truly loves does so with every fiber of her being before her mouth ever dares speak it aloud. Let her silence bloom, let her eyes linger, let her body lean. That is the most sacred confession of all, and it is you, chosen one, who has made her feel safe enough to confess her soul without a single syllable. In your presence, she is not trying to seduce or impress. She is simply becoming, and becoming is love. It happens slowly, then all at once, a single moment, a glance, a breath, and then it comes, her voice trembling, soft as wind across your skin, and suddenly she says it. I love you. Not for approval, not for reaction, but because her chest could no longer carry the truth in silence. That confession is not a performance. It is not the climax of a romantic scene. It is the release of years of locked emotion, and you, chosen one, are the only one who ever had the key. But even before her lips speak those sacred syllables, you already knew, because you are the man who listens to what is not being said. You are the man who heard her breath shift when you walked into the room, who felt her aura melt when you called her beautiful like it was a prayer, not a compliment. She has watched you, studied you, fallen for the way you didn't try to make her love you, but made her feel her own capacity to love again. You activated the feminine in her, not by pursuit, but by presence. You reminded her of the love already inside her, and that is why she now looks at you with awe, like a miracle walking in mortal skin. When her mouth says it, it is not just words, it is a spiritual offering. And you do not mock it, you do not gloat, you do not minimize it. You receive it with the reverence of a priest catching falling incense from the heavens, because you know what it took for her to say it. The walls she had to break, the fears she had to lay down, the egos she had to slay within herself, and she did not say it to manipulate or to gain. She said it because your masculine presence opened a gateway in her being she thought was forever sealed. And now, everything changes. She walks differently. Her voice carries the grace of one who has given her heart and is no longer pretending she hasn't. She doesn't compete, she doesn't perform. She knows what you are and she knows what she feels. That knowing becomes her beauty. That beauty becomes her truth. And you, chosen one, become the man she orbits, not as a satellite to a planet, but as a rose to the sun. You are her light, her gravity, her stillness, her storm. But you do not take her love for granted, because you are one of the rare chosen ones who understands that love is not a currency. It is a responsibility. Her confession is not a conquest. It is a covenant, a spiritual contract sealed in the breath between two hearts beating in the same rhythm. And in that breath, in that trembling moment, when she finally spoke what you already knew, you became something sacred. Not just the man she loves, but the man she trusts with that love. Chosen one. Her confession was not the end of the story. It was the ignition of something deeper, something that now begins to form like invisible architecture behind everything she says and does. Once a woman says, I love you, with her full body and spirit, she doesn't just mean it with emotion, she begins to live it. And the more you remain steady, open, and real in your presence, the more her entire inner and outer world orients itself quietly toward you. It is not submission in the way the world distorts it. It is alignment. Her love becomes the compass, and you, chosen one, become her magnetic north. Without forcing it, you begin to notice the subtle reorganizations. She starts clearing space for you, space in her thoughts, in her days, in the way she plans her future. She begins to speak in terms of we, not I. She doesn't cling because she doesn't need to. Her security lies in the energy you emit, not from promises, but from presence. She's at peace around you because your masculine energy is not hungry, not unstable, not performative. It simply is, and that being state reshapes her. The wild in her doesn't disappear. In fact, it grows, but now it has a safe place to dance. You've become the mountain she can laugh around, weep beside, rest within. And when others ask her why she seems brighter, softer, wiser, she doesn't explain you in detail. She doesn't need to. She just smiles. Because how do you describe the sun to someone who has never felt warm? You don't. You just glow. Chosen one, this phase of love is rarely spoken of. It is where love deepens past language and into identity. She no longer loves you like a separate being. She begins to identify with you. Your wins feel like hers. Your pains ache in her chest. Your silence doesn't scare her, it intrigues her. You've changed the way she walks into rooms, because now she carries your energy inside her like an amulet woven into her aura. And the greatest part of all, you never asked for any of it. You didn't seduce her into it. You didn't perform. You didn't demand her devotion. You simply were. You were the man who stood still when others ran, who stayed kind when others mocked, who listened when others talked over. You were the eye in the storm, and now she builds her temple around your gaze. And the world begins to notice, not just her love, but your effect. It happens slowly, without announcement. One day, someone will look at her and say, "You've changed." And she'll smile again, not because they're wrong, but because they're just beginning to see what's been unfolding for some time now. She won't say your name, but you'll be in her smile, in her choices, in her strength, in her softness, in the way she no longer seeks chaos to feel alive, in the way her elegance becomes effortless, because you made her feel safe enough to bloom. And that is when her love becomes her legacy. Not just in what she says to you behind closed doors, but in how she carries herself in a world that once made her shrink. She begins to inspire others, not by being loud or perfect, but by being a living testament to what happens when a woman is loved by a man who has mastered his own energy. A man who does not flinch in the face of beauty. A man who does not need to dominate to feel powerful. A man who seduces not with words, but with wholeness. That man, chosen one, is you. And now she is becoming your echo. Not a reflection, not an imitation, but a living extension of your energy. She walks with your invisible hand on her lower back, guiding her spine into dignity. She speaks with your calmness nested in her voice. She laughs with your courage stitched into her lungs. And when other women see her, they begin to ask, "Who taught you to love like this?" And she smiles again, because the answer isn't something that can be taught. The answer is you. Her love becomes her light, and that light becomes generational. If she has daughters, they will rise taller because you taught her that real men still exist. If she has friends, they will begin to soften because you showed her how a woman doesn't have to armor herself to survive. If she has enemies, they will begin to fear her, not because she is cruel, but because she no longer needs to be cruel to protect herself. She is shielded by love now. Your love. This is what most chosen ones never realize. That love is not a moment, it is a movement. A wave that begins with presence and ripples through time. You didn't just receive her love. You awakened a force that will ripple beyond her life. You've become part of her legacy, not because you asked to be, but because you were ready to be. So stand tall, chosen one. For you are not just the man she loves. You are the man who transformed her. And her transformation is the silent monument to your greatness, seen and felt in every soul she now touches. You have become unforgettable. Chosen one, by now you have become more than a man. You have become a presence, a force, an atmosphere. A walking testament to what happens when fire meets discipline, when desire is owned but not spent recklessly, when masculine energy no longer seeks approval, but alignment. You move through the world like you know something others have forgotten. Not arrogantly, not loudly, but with the kind of quiet confidence that lives in the bones, not the mouth. And this is what creates the eternal pull. Women feel it instantly, whether they're aware or not. The gravity of you, the way time slows slightly when you're near, the way their mind quiets, not because you silence them, but because you do not demand to be heard. There is no rush in you, no grasping, no performance. You are rooted, and in that rootedness they feel safe enough to let go, to soften, to remember. They do not cling to you in desperation. They feel drawn to you in reverence. They do not chase you like a fantasy. They gravitate to you like a truth that finally returned to their orbit after lifetimes of absence. The pull you create is not magnetic in the usual sense. It is spiritual. It transcends attraction. It transcends personality. It is the soul's way of responding to what is true. They long not just for your hands, but for what your hands have mastered. Not just your presence, but the stillness behind it. Not just your energy, but your restraint. You carry power not like a storm, but like a mountain. You are not unshakable because you are cold. You are unshakable because you have made peace with your fire. And that peace is rare enough to feel eternal. They yearn for it. Some come near, some keep their distance, afraid of being seen too deeply, but all feel it. And those who are ready, those who are whole enough to surrender without collapsing, will choose you not for what you promise, but for what you are. They will not need convincing. They will remember. And in that remembrance, their own power will awaken beside yours. This is not seduction.